Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about values of random variable. So before we understand the values of the random variable, we need to first understand what an experiment is. When we say experiment, these are any procedures or activities that can be repeated under the same conditions and has a well-defined set of possible outcomes. When we say repeated procedure, you are going to do it all over again until all the outcomes were exhausted. Meaning, wala ka na makukuha pang unique outcome doon. Okay? So, it should be repeated under the same condition. Examples of these are drawing a card, rolling a die, and tossing a coin. So now, what do you think are the possible outcomes of this one? But we have already discussed this from our previous lesson, so this is just a sort of review. So in drawing a card, we know that a deck of cards contains of 52 cards. So meaning, the possible outcomes that you may get in drawing a card is 52, and that is our sample space. In rolling a die, so we know that a die contains 6 faces that contains all these numerical values from 1 to 6. So meaning the sample space that we may get here is 6, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How about in tossing or rolling 2 dice? Okay, in rolling 2 dice, we have the sample space of 36. I have already discussed this in our previous lesson. In tossing a coin, we have head and tail. So we only have here sample space of 2. So meaning the possible outcomes that you may get here is head or tail. In tossing 2 coins, we have 4 sample space, and that is HH, HT, TH, and TT. So you can determine the number of possible outcomes by using the formula of 2 raised to n. So the sample space here is 4. So please remember this information because we are going to use this data for the next lesson. Now, what is a random variable? A random variable is a function that assigns a numerical value to each outcome of a random experiment. So when we say variable, these are typically represented by capital letters X, Y, and Z. Kaya nga siya variable kasi letters siya. So, these functions or these variables represents a numerical value. Bakit sasabihin nyo, bakit numerical value, ma'am? Wherein the possible outcomes in tossing a coin is head and tail. But random variable assigns a numerical value because if a certain random variable represents a tail, you are going to count how many tails in each outcome. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng numerical value doon sa nominal value na nakukuha natin. Okay? Now, how are we going to get the values of the random variable? But before that, let us first define what are the values of the random variable. When we say values of a random variable, these are all possible numbers that the variable can take as a result of a random experiment. So we can have this example for us to better understand what values of the random variable are. So we have a fair coin is tossed twice. So we only have one coin, but it will be tossed twice. So the random variable here is X, which will represent the number of heads. Remember that the random variable X will represent the number of heads observed as you toss the coin twice. So the question is, what are the possible values of the random variable X? So we know that if we have a coin and we are going to toss it twice, so we will have a possible outcomes of 4. Why? Because, say for example, the first toss, you got head. And the second toss, you get another head. So the first outcome that we may get is head and head. Another one, after you repeat the experiment, you get head for the first toss and you got tail for the second toss. So meaning the second outcome that we got is head and tail, and so on. So we have head and head, head and tail and head, tail and tail. So as you can see, so we have here a numerical value under the random variable x column, because a random variable represents a numerical value. So since the random variable x represents the number of heads, we are going to count how many heads do we have in each outcome. So the first outcome here is head and head. So we can say that the random variable here is 2. The second is head and tail, so the number of heads is 1. So tail and head, the number of here is also 1, and tail, as you can see, we don't have a head here, so that is 0. So now, what are the random values of the random variable? So as you can see, the values of the random variable here is that 0, and we have here 1 and 2. So meaning, kapag nag-toss ka pala ng isang coin twice, pwede ka makuha ng 0 heads, meaning walang head kahit isa. Pwede ka makakuha ng isang head, it's either head and tail or tail and head. And also, pwede ka makakuha ng dalawang heads, or that is 2. So the values of the random variable of this in this example is 0, 1, and 2. Okay, let's have another example. A fair coin is tossed, so let y be the number of tails observed. What are the possible values of the random variable y? So here, we only have one coin. And we know that the sample space in one coin is 2. And the possible outcomes are head and tail. So the y, which is the random variable, will represent the number of tails. Okay? So we are going to count the number of tails in this outcome. We only have here h. So meaning the random variable here is 1. Here we only have t. So since the number of the random variable y will be the number of tails, meaning, so we are going to count that as 1. So the values of the random variable here is 0 and 1. Sample number 3. A fair coin is tossed 3 times. Let x be the number of heads observed. So what are the possible values of the random variable x? So we have here a coin, but we are going to toss it 3 times. So meaning, the random variable will represent the number of heads observed. So as you can see, we can say that the values of the random variable will be 0, 1, 2, and 3. Because pwede tayo makakuha ng walang head as you toss the coin 3 times, or we can only have one head, that is H, T, T. Also, that's tatlo. So one head lang siya. Another one is 2 heads or 3 heads. How about 4 heads? Can we get 4 heads in a coin tossed 3 times? Of course, it is not possible. So there is no probability that we will get 4 heads in a coin tossed 3 times. Okay, so the possible values here are 0, 1, 2, and 3. Next example. What are the possible values of the random variable z, given that z represents the number of heads observed when tossing 5 coins? Here, we are going to toss 5 coins. So what do you think are the values of the random variable if z represents the number of heads? Meaning, ilan ba yung mga pwedeng lumabas na head in each toss of coin? So meaning, so first is, we can assume that it's not assumed, it is really the values of the random variable z that represents the number of heads. So pwedeng wala, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So as you can see, the pattern is here. So if you're going to get the values of the random variable, there is always 0, a possibility that walang head na makukuha. There's always a possibility 1 hanggang doon sa pinaka-maximum, which is 5. Bakit 5 yung maximum heads na pwede natin makuha? Because we have 5 coins. Okay? Example number 5. Suppose there are 10 light bulbs in a box, and you will be testing them for defects. Let x be the number of defective light bulbs. What are the possible values of the random variable x? Okay, so here, what do you think are the possibility, or what are the values of the random variable x na makakakuha tayo ng defective light bulbs? So the answer here is that the values are from 0 to 10. Pwedeng walang defective or pwedeng lahat ng light bulb sa box na yon is defective, are defectives. Okay? So, it is very easy because we're just going to get the values of the random variable, of a certain random variable which represents a certain outcome. Okay, now, so let's be ready for the quiz number 1. So, I will be printing the worksheet and will be given it to your advisors, or you can just access this in this link. So, kung hindi naman kaya, nandito po yung sample ng quiz. So, this will be your quiz. Thank you.